Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be handing over the spiritual stones, and then of course I'm going to be heading into the Temple of Time and becoming an adult. And I don't want to do the glitch run or anything because that one in the Lost Woods kind of wore me out quite a bit, so I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm going to be turning into an adult in this chapter. But anyways, to explain about last night a little bit, or I guess the last couple of parts or so, was that I was on insomnia. I was sleep deprived, and of course I don't think there's anything wrong with being sociable and more wacky in an usual playthrough. But also when I lack sleep or something is that I'm a little bit less courteous, a little bit less nice, or a little bit more bashing, sort of say, on my opinions sometimes when I expand on certain topics when it comes to those kind of situations. So first off, I want to say that I just want to apologize a little bit. In my last part, I was a little bit blunt anyways in saying why I wasn't a fan of the PlayStation 4 and the Wii U. Was because I was saying that, oh, because it's 4 to 5 years or something, that's a bad thing, and it's the reason I don't get it. And that, I guess to kind of expand on that story a little bit, is I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, making it for, like, 4 to 5 years or something. But really the reason I don't really get into any of those consoles is because I like having a great selection of games. And this is just an honest thing, and I'm not just trying to be mean or anything, and I respect people's opinions about it, but I like to have a great selection of games, anyways, when it comes to my consoles, and that was the reason I bought the PlayStation 3 eventually, was because at first it was kind of slowing down a little bit since all the development and stuff was going on with all the stuff at the start of the console, and then I was like, maybe it's not worth, like, shelving, like, $400 over or something to get something like that. And then nowadays, it's a lot cheaper now. It's about $200, and that was when I started to buy it because they were now starting to get the big library of games out. And will the same thing happen with PlayStation 4 and Wii U? So far, not so good. It's because it's getting really tight. Like I'm going to admit right now, is that it's getting pretty tight with games. Is that there's a lot of great games and things like on the Wii U and PlayStation 4, no doubt about it. But having the PlayStation 4 just for the sake of having a smaller library, it just doesn't give me a lot of options or anything to play those games, because what I usually do is I head to GameStop and I usually buy games I have heard about or games that people have recommended to me to try or something. And when it comes to the PlayStation 4 and Wii U, I just don't see myself. Well, like I check over at the PlayStation 4 and the Wii U libraries, like when I'm over at GameStop, I'm like, no, not yet. But yeah. That's just kind of the story behind it, is that, yeah, I know I was a little bit tired last night and just wanted to apologize for that. And you know what, it's totally cool. If anybody does enjoy those consoles, and I really appreciate those comments that say, yeah, it is pretty cool and things that people do spend all those years in development time bringing us those great experiences. But there is something about the later consoles I am not a fan of. Is that the farther it is into the generation that we do with consoles and everything, yeah, the later we go into the consoles or something, is that we need more and more people in order to bring those video games together, to bring them to life, so to say. And there is no secret or anything, like, okay, it looks like it's stopped anyways. Yeah, there's like a massive dip in frame rate right now because the emulator's having a hard time just kind of keeping this check, or maybe it's just my emulator just kind of cracking up or something. But anyways, what I was saying though is that there's a lot of game consoles nowadays that requires a lot of people to get a lot of projects done. Now, which back in the old days you only needed like a handful of stuff, like with the Nintendo 64 and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis or something. And there's nothing wrong or anything in getting more people to really get into more of the projects. But the big downside is though is that because it's really hard to collaborate on a lot of projects, the more people that you have collaborating together on a project, the harder it is to maintain everything. That's the reason that they take so long in order to develop everything. And, well, just like being a part of YouTube, you don't see this, of course, because if anybody doesn't make YouTube videos, is that sometimes you get into collaborations with people. And, well, there's collaborations is kind of like a flip of the coin. For anybody who's done YouTube for a while, and when it comes to collaborations, is that sometimes they're really beneficial. Sometimes you get somebody who shares the work with you, somebody who can work with their personality. And you know what? Everything just works. Everything just goes uphill. Or not uphill, I guess downhill, I guess, to make it easier. But they share the load with them. And then, and you don't see this, of course, sometimes with YouTube, like when it comes to some, let's see, like, I don't know, I can't really think or anything at the moment. But sometimes like I'm trying to say it in like the gentlest way possible. So that sometimes personalities don't match, sometimes work ethics or work styles kind of conflict with each other, and sometimes there are just things that can just make the collaboration work, and it becomes more of a weight rather than something that can benefit you in the end. And well, the thing is though, is that all of the collaborations you've seen on my YouTube projects are the guys that have worked. Like for example, with War Dog and with Joe and those guys, those are collaborations that have been successful. And then the ones that don't work are the ones that don't actually make it to YouTube because there's something that happens down the line where it doesn't really work out, or yeah, just anything of the sort. It's just that's just the way that collaborations work. It's a risky thing to do. It's a risk kind of reward. I don't know. It's kind of strange or something to talk about, but anyways, though, is that the reason I'm bringing this up is that for the later consoles and things, there's a lot more collaboration that's needed, and for that, sometimes things do work out for the console. Like sometimes there are beautiful collaborations, like Naughty Dog with Uncharted 4. But because there's a lot of development time that's kind of going into them, it's also more of a chance for them to mess up. I don't know. Anyways, I think I'm overthinking it anyways. Anyways, now we're starting to get into Adult Link here. And I guess for the remainder of this part, I'm going to talk about my biggest gripe with Ocarina of Time. I talked about back in part 3 as the general view about it, like of what people have been seeing from Ocarina of Time that doesn't make it for them. Anyways, that's fine. Every video game has their weaknesses, has their flaws, has their crap. And unfortunately, Ocarina of Time isn't any different. But anyways, we're now starting to approach my biggest problem with Ocarina of Time. And this takes me several years back, when I first started to play Ocarina of Time. Is that Ocarina of Time is really vague at some points. This is just a thing that happens throughout the Legend of Zelda series, but because Ocarina of Time was my first game, I didn't really know how vague it was really going to be, like throughout the series. Majora's Mask, in my opinion, has the worst of it. And the reason I'm saying that is that because you remember me saying that with the Deku Scrub, you got to get the green beans, and then you got to water it, and then you got to go up into that into the second floor of the Deku Scrub camp or something, so you can start flying around on the flowers. That is vague. It really is. Like, who would ever think to really think about something like that without a strategy guide? And eventually, I did have to find a strategy guide, and this is what I'm. Yeah, and this is what I'm going to be coming back to with Ocarina of Time, is that, you know what Darunia is, that you had to find Saraya's song, so that way you had to go into the Lost Woods and it had to get Saraya's song or something. You know what, we got strategy guides nowadays, so it's not a problem for most people. People can just Google it and they can just get it. Back then, when we were like 9, 10, 11 years old or something, we didn't have anything like that. We had strategy guides or something, but I didn't know that they existed. That's because we didn't really need them. There weren't really any complex games or anything that was really brought up to that point. It's just that you pick up a game and you can play it through all the way to the end. And then The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time just started to come around. Now, unlike Super Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie or something, is that the Ocarina of Time is more explorative. Well, those other two games are explorative as well, but they tell you what your objectives are up front, and usually you can figure it out within a reasonable amount of time, usually about 5 to 15 minutes, depending on what the star is, but a little bit of exploration goes a long way in finding your stars. Ocarina of Time, along with the rest of the Zelda series, is really vague at some points in order to get you to know where you want to go. Right here is that he said that I had to go to... Oh, actually, I'll go back to the Darunia example first, because this is the first time that I don't know, it's actually happened all throughout Ocarina of Time, and it's actually kind of a badgered mess with me, is that... I don't know quite how to describe those kind of feelings or something. Is that you remember back in Majora's Mask that I had a lot of grudges towards the game because I've gone through several playthroughs, and I don't know, it's just kind of kept me away from the game for long periods of time. This is kind of the same feeling I'm having towards Ocarina of Time at the moment, is that I know that I kind of have a lot of it like brushed aside or something, but it's kind of like Miltank or something from the second generation game, which is Silver and Gold, is that a lot of people can kind of forgive it nowadays, but back then when you start thinking about those memories, those painful memories, then it's kind of a little bit hard for you to really grasp, or to really let go of those feelings, because it really did impact you big time at one point. And you remember those things every time that it's brought up. it kind of like gives you that dark past. This is what's happening with me with Ocarina of Time at the moment. Is that, yeah, I'll go back to the Darunia example, is that you're supposed to find Soraya's song and things, and you know what, people can look up strategy guides all the time on Google and all sorts of stuff in order to find it nowadays. We had nothing back then to really go off of anything. And I know a lot of people say that Ocarina of Time, everybody thinks, oh, because Ocarina of Time just like came out or something, it became the best game ever and things for its time or something. That actually wasn't true. No, I'm being dead serious. A lot of people didn't really think of the game that way. That's because we didn't have strategy guides or walkthroughs or anything, so a lot of people struggled at the time to complete Ocarina of Time, and it wasn't funny. Like, I'm talking me, my friends and things, had so much trouble with finding out what to do next in the game without having any strategy guides that we outright hated the game for a little while. Yeah, again, I'll go back to the Darunia examples. Yeah, like going into the Lost Woods and things, that's kind of vague to really know that you had to go there for Soraya's song, because you didn't know that was Soraya's song that was playing in the background. You just thought it was some random tune, and you know what? You got lost. You get lost in Ocarina of Time. Yeah, it definitely does happen. So it took me forever, and in order for me to figure out that you had to go deep into the Lost Woods to find Soraya, and then play it with Darunia. The next time this happened was with Lord Jabu Jabu's belly with me, is that dropping the fish in front of Lord Jabu Jabu's belly to make him open his mouth to get access to that third dungeon. I know, I'm like letting my feelings or something get to me, but I've got to get this out, is that is BS. It is BS through and through. These are like my childhood feelings. Like, this is like 2 years of stuff that I cooped up in my body or something between like 9 to 11 years old. I remember those feelings, and I hated this game because of it. I hated Ocarina of Time because of it. This was why it was so hard for me to get into the series, was because you had to drop a random fish in front of Lord Jabu Jabu's belly to open it, and it gave you no stinking hints on how to get fish, and that you had to drop the fish in front of him to open it. Gosh, I'm not gonna swear. I'm gonna like contain my feelings or something about it. But back then, that made me despise Ocarina of Time. So why is this relevant to right now? About me just like barely going into Adult Link and whatnot, and coming into the hookshot and stuff like that, is that this is the biggest example right here of why I couldn't complete Ocarina of Time, was because Sheik was vague. He just said, go to Kakariko Village, and that's it. So guess what happens if you spend hours and hours and hours and tens of hours in Kakariko Village trying to find out what the hell he meant? Sometimes this game is just too damn vague for its own good. This was a real phenomenon that happened. So what happened was that I strayed off. Eventually I came across the ice cavern and I found the iron boots. Eventually I went over to the desert temple, as that Gerudo fortress anyways, so that way I could rescue the workers. That was how bad it got, was that I ended up doing side quests, doing a lot of other things, but for the longest time, it took me probably about 2 years of playing Ocarina of Time before I finally beat it because of this garbage. Was because, you know what, Sheik had the answer. He had the answer on where to go in the graveyard in order to get the hookshot and head over to the forest temple. That is BS! That is seriously BS. Just to think about this for a second on my side. I know it sounds like that I'm being angry or something, but build this up over like a year or maybe a year and a half of doing this. Of just like coming across this with Ocarina of Time, is that this random crap just happens to come up, then you happen to do this random thing, which it gives you no context on what to do. And yeah, it bugs me. It seriously does bug me that Ocarina of Time was really this cryptic at the time. Seriously. Oh my gosh, I hate bringing up those feelings. My friends hated it, I hated it. A lot of us hated it back then. As soon as Ocarina of Time came out, Ocarina of Time was not... It wasn't until strategy guides came out that people started calling it the greatest game ever made, because people could actually find out what the F to do. Yeah, and this probably happened to me probably throughout Ocarina of Time, probably about a total of 10 times. But yeah, as soon as I turned into Adult Link, this was the biggest instance of me just getting trapped in the game. I don't know. I know that I'm like supposed to be fair, I'm supposed to be objective, I'm that kind of guy. But you know what? This is kind of one of those moments where I just got to vent it out. I just got to get it vented out of my system. Is that it was garbage. It sucked. It sucked balls back then. Ocarina of Time was not perfect, and this is definitely just one of those instances where, you know what, the internet just flushed out all of the negativity that came with the game. And it just sort of became forgotten over the years because everybody, when you start talking about the positives more and more, and you just keep on talking about them like over and over again, then eventually you're just going to forget the negatives. That's what nostalgia does, and then everybody just forgets the negatives. Everybody just forgot what happens when you start out with these kind of things. And yeah, sorry, I just had to like vent out my feelings or something, but yeah, like the big issue with it, like with Ocarina of Time, just like turning into an adult Link or something, and like getting stuck with the desert or with the Gerudo's Fortress and with Ice Cavern or something, is that, well, imagine that I just like it took me about 5 playthroughs in order for me to complete Ocarina of Time. Yeah, it seriously did take me about 5. So like I would get stuck at Darunia or Lower Jobby Jobby's Belly, then I'd put down the game for a while. And then somebody else would take up the save file and just pick up and do their own new file and just kind of see what happens. So my progress gets erased, and then I'm like, a couple of months later, I'll probably be like, okay, well, let's try this game again. And this is, wow, I can't believe I'm going to reveal this, but I guess I finally will. Was that the only way that I was able to progress into the game and find the hookshot and get into the Forest Temple was that I had to get my hands onto a strategy guide. And, well, I only used the strategy guide for one reason, is to find out where to go. I didn't use them in the temples themselves, so I didn't use them in the Forest Temple, or the Fire Temple, or the Water Temple, or the, why do I keep on, I don't know, yeah, the Desert Temple, I don't know, the Spirit Temple, what am I talking about? I've been calling it the Desert Temple all this time. Sorry, I was so mad I forgot the name. But yeah, yeah, I didn't use the strategy guides or anything for the temples. I used them to find out where to go next. Because I used it for the Fire Temple to figure out that you had to drop the bomb. And in order to get that guy to stand up and give you the fire tunic and tell you where to go. With the Water Temple, that one isn't a problem because I already had the ice boots. And then Shadow Temple, well, Shadow Temple is pretty straightforward on finding it. I didn't need the strategy guide for that. And then the only time I needed the strategy guide in order to get the Spirit Temple was to find the last carpenter out of the 4 carpenters, because I couldn't find him for the life of me. But yeah, I do want to stress though, is that don't really believe it. Like with the internet and things, a lot of people like start putting a blanket of positivity over certain games or something and just say, oh, this game has never had any problems, it's perfect, it's 100%. And when you start talking about the positives like more over and over again, then people start to forget the bad times that people have had with the game when they first started it up. And Ocarina of Time was definitely one of these examples. Where, you know what, it turned out to be a huge problem for a lot of people on launch and things. And then ever since the internet came out, people put a blanket over it and just say, oh, this game was never bad. It's never had problems. Yeah, don't. Like, I'm sorry for getting really personal with all of this, but don't. Please just, if I were to give any advice or something, please acknowledge that every video game has had their down moments with everybody. It doesn't matter how popular it is. It really doesn't. It does not matter how popular a video game is. It has flaws. It has weaknesses. And some people aren't going to access the internet. They won't be able to access the internet. And guess what? When they pick up Ocarina of Time the first time and don't have access to the internet, they're going to suffer through like I did. Oh, okay. Alright, I'm done. I'm completely done. Wow, so much for me being apologetic in the last episode and saying that I was kind of being mean-spirited, but wow. I had to let off a lot of fumes. Just that was 2 years of stuff. That was 2 years of rage that I bottled out right into the open right there. And that was the biggest reason it took me so effing long for me to get into the Zelda series. Was because this series is big. It's vague, seriously, through and through. You have to expect that. Doesn't matter what game you're playing, Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, it doesn't matter what game you're playing. It's gonna get vague at points. It just is. Okay. So anyways, I think I'm gonna reach the Forest Temple right here, and then I think I'm gonna call it a day, so. Alright, so I think, yeah, that's it and things. But, yeah. Anyways, I'm done talking about it, so if you're expecting me to talk about it again, then, yeah. That's just, yeah, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to talk about it anymore, so I was about to talk about it some more, but everybody gets the point. I'm done brushing it into your skulls and everything, but yeah, this is my biggest personal gripe with Ocarina of Time, is that, oh, yeah, the internet has pretty much just put a big blanket coat of colorful colors. I don't know, I'm like trying to rhyme and I'm trying to reason here, but how can you rhyme and reason? Yeah. Anyways, oh. Yeah, I'll wait for this guy to go through anyways. And then next time I'll talk about just with the Forest Temple a little bit, and then I'll talk about kind of a little bit more of the settings behind what this new tone sets up, like with the game like being serious or something. Like at this point, because during a kid's adventure you don't really see any of this stuff, all these mean enemies or anything around all these corners. It's just kind of... Let's see. Oh, no guard there. Okay, that's what I thought, if I remembered it right. Oh, hello. Oh, this guy got me though. Oh, gotta move. Thankfully these guys are stupid enough not to chase me around corners, thank goodness. Alright, I got you. Oh, nope, I didn't get you. I thought he was going to turn the corner or turn the cheek enough. Alright, oh, I gotta wait for him to turn all the way around. Okay, got him. Nope, that's not what I meant to do. That's not what I meant to do either. Come on. Got him. Butt hit. I got him right in the butt. Okay, and if I remember right, I remember this last guy can launch you over if you're not careful. Alright, so I gotta see where he's at. Okay. Nope, I guess he's not there. I thought he would be there, but I guess not. Let's see, do I still have my milk with me? Ha! Guess what? I am carrying 7 years of expired milk right here. Can you imagine Link drinking this bad boy right now? I'm still gonna keep the milk though. It's still more valuable than fairies up to this point. Bam. Bam, bam. So telegraphed. But I think the only reason that I actually started to get into Ocarina of Time was that once you start getting into the temples, like the Forest Temple and with the Fire Temple, then you kind of need the strategy guide a lot less. And then I like the serious change of the atmosphere, and yeah, it was around this time that I started getting into Ocarina of Time a little bit. It's kind of ironic because I just gave that huge rant or something like up to that point, but yeah, I do started to become more forgiving of it, just like because of its dungeons, rather than just being big and whatnot. I don't know. That was a long time ago, so I don't remember my exact feelings on it or anything. Yeah, this place, just right here in the Sacred Forest Meadow, and like looking up into that tree trunk and looking into the Forest Temple. I knew that was the Forest Temple, but I couldn't figure out how to get up there because I didn't have the hook shot, and I remember this place used to haunt me because of that. Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit of a backstory with that, and that was big. That was seriously a big thing back then, and it still haunts me to this day, unfortunately. And it haunts me big time. Oh man, I just hope I didn't overload the mic or anything during this episode. But yeah, I'll be a lot more calm-minded like throughout the rest of this playthrough. But yeah, if you remember a kid, like I guess you can kind of think of it more like a bottle of bad nostalgic memories that I just had to let loose. It's just kind of like as soon as you reminded me of it, I just had to rant about it. It's just that's just an evil, deep, dark secret about myself about this game. So. Yep, go ahead, judge me how you will, but yep, that seriously did happen. Okay, so I learned the minuet of Forest, so I can start coming back here now. Well, I think I might as well just step into the Forest Temple, so that way I can save it right now, so. Alright, next time I'll start going into the Forest Temple and a little bit more with a serious tone with this game anyways. And I'll talk about Sheik a little bit too. I don't know, I just kind of glossed over a lot of what happened in the game just for the sake of telling you that story, so I guess I kind of owe you guys a little bit. Just kind of stuff that happened between going to being an adult, getting the hook shot, and I guess the Forest Temple, I guess. So, alright, so here we go. I'm back. I'm in the Forest Temple, so I'm going to save. And I guess that's it. I'm going to spastic save like I always do, and I will see you guys in the next part where we got to get caught up on a lot of things. So, Forest Temple, next episode. Let's go. My least favorite dungeon in this entire game. Still like it, but still least favorite. But I'll talk about that more in the next part. But see you later.